In the remote depths of a sprawling forest where the ancient trees whispered secrets to the wind, there existed a village called Kuru. The village was small, tucked away from the rest of the world, its people living simple lives in harmony with nature. They believed that the forest surrounding their home was alive with spirits, beings that had watched over them for generations, ensuring their safety and prosperity. Kuru was a place of tradition, where every family had its role and every individual knew their place. Among these families was one that stood out, not for its wealth or power, but for the beauty and kindness of its only daughter, Nyasha. Nyasha was the kind of woman who drew admiration wherever she went. Her eyes sparkled like the morning dew on a leaf, and her smile had the warmth of the sun. Yet, despite her beauty and the constant attention she received, Nyasha remained a mystery to the people of Kuru. Many men had sought her hand in marriage, each one more determined than the last, but Nyasha turned them all away. Some said she was waiting for true love. Others whispered that she was cursed, destined never to marry. But none knew the real reason for her solitude. Nyasha's life was not as ordinary as it seemed. Beneath her calm exterior lay a secret she had carried since birth, a secret known only to her and the spirits of the forest. Nyasha was not entirely human. She was a child of the enchanted woods, born to a lineage that was as old as the forest itself. Her mother had been a serpent spirit, and her father, a mortal man who had once wandered into the forest and fallen in love with the beautiful creature he found there. Their union had been a rare and fragile one, bringing Nyasha into the world, a being of both light and shadow. As Nyasha grew, her parents warned her of the dangers that lay in the human world, urging her to stay hidden within the forest. But Nyasha's heart longed for more. She wanted to experience the life of the villagers, to feel the warmth of their fires, and to hear the laughter that echoed through the village square. So she made a fateful decision. She left her family and the safety of the forest behind, choosing to live among the people of Kuru. But the transition was not easy. Though Nyasha was accepted into the village, she was always aware of the thin line she walked between two worlds. She hid her true nature, suppressing the powers that lay dormant within her, and tried to live as an ordinary woman. Yet, she could not escape the feeling that she was different. It was as if the forest still called to her, its voice a constant whisper in her ear, reminding her of who she truly was. As the years passed, Nyasha built a life for herself in Kuru. She became known for her kindness, always willing to help those in need, and her wisdom, which seemed far beyond her years. But despite her best efforts to blend in, the villagers could not help but notice the air of mystery that surrounded her. Rumors began to spread, rumors of strange happenings and unexplained events that seemed to follow Nyasha wherever she went. And though she tried to ignore them, she knew that it was only a matter of time before her secret would be revealed. As the sun rose over Kuru, casting long shadows across the village, a stranger appeared on the horizon. He was a tall man, with broad shoulders and a confident stride that commanded attention. His name was Adisa, a trader who traveled from village to village, bringing with him goods from faraway lands. His arrival was always met with excitement, as the people of Kuru eagerly awaited the exotic wares he carried. Adisa had seen many villages in his travels, but none had intrigued him as much as Kuru. There was something about the place that felt different, almost magical. The way the trees seemed to lean in closer, as if listening to the conversations of the villagers, and the way the air felt thicker, filled with an energy that was both intoxicating and unsettling. It was as if the very land was alive, watching his every move. As he made his way through the bustling market, setting up his stall and arranging his goods, Adisa's attention was drawn to a figure standing near the edge of the crowd. It was Nyasha, her eyes locked on a group of children playing nearby. There was a softness to her expression, a quiet sadness that pulled at something deep within Adisa's heart. He had never seen anyone quite like her before, and he found himself unable to look away. The villagers noticed his gaze and began to murmur among themselves. They knew Adisa's reputation as a man who always got what he wanted, and they wondered if he would be the one to finally win Nyasha's heart. But those who knew her best whispered warnings, reminding him of the mysterious aura that surrounded her. Ignoring the whispers, Adisa approached Nyasha. His curiosity piqued. "Good morning," he said, his voice warm and inviting. "I don't believe we've met. My name is Adisa." Nyasha turned to face him, her expression guarded. She had seen men like Adisa before, men who thought they could charm their way into her life. But there was something different about him, something that made her pause. "I am Nyasha," she replied, her voice soft yet firm. "Welcome to Kuru," Adisa smiled, sensing her hesitation. "I've heard many things about this village, but none as intriguing as the tales of a woman with a heart as pure as gold. They say you are a healer, a wise woman who can see into the souls of others. Is that true?" Nyasha looked at him, her eyes narrowing slightly. "People like to talk," she said simply, "but not everything they say is true." Adisa nodded, understanding her need for privacy. "Well, I won't pry, but I would like to get to know you better, if you'll allow it." Nyasha studied him for a moment, searching for any sign of deceit, but all she saw was a man genuinely interested in her, not because of the rumors, but because of who she was. For the first time in a long while, she felt a flicker of something she had long suppressed. Curiosity, perhaps even hope. "Perhaps," she said finally, "we can talk, but not here. Meet me by the river at dusk. We can speak freely there, away from prying eyes." Adisa agreed, his heart racing with anticipation. As he watched her walk away, he couldn't help but feel that he was stepping into something far greater than he had ever encountered before. Something ancient and powerful, hidden beneath the surface of this quiet village. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Adisa made his way to the river, where Nyasha awaited him. The air was cool, and the sounds of the forest surrounded them, creating a sense of intimacy that was both comforting and unnerving. As they talked, Adisa found himself drawn deeper into Nyasha's world, a world filled with secrets, danger, and a beauty that was as enchanting as it was terrifying. And so their story began, with a single conversation by the river that would set in motion events neither of them could foresee. The river was a place of quiet solitude where the villagers rarely ventured after dusk. It was here, under the canopy of ancient trees, that Nyasha felt most at peace. The gentle flow of the water, the rustling leaves, and the soft chirping of nocturnal creatures all seemed to speak to her, reminding her of the world she had left behind. As she waited for Adisa, she couldn't shake the feeling that tonight would change everything. When Adisa arrived, he found Nyasha sitting on a large, smooth rock by the riverbank, her feet dipped in the cool water. The moonlight bathed her in a soft glow, making her seem almost otherworldly. For a moment he hesitated, unsure if he was intruding on something sacred, but Nyasha turned to him with a smile, beckoning him closer. "You came," she said, her voice blending with the sounds of the night. Adisa nodded, taking a seat beside her on the rock. "I wouldn't miss it for the world," he replied, his tone sincere. He glanced at the river, watching as the water reflected the silver light of the moon. "This place, it feels different from anywhere I've been. Almost like it's alive." Nyasha tilted her head, studying him with curiosity. "You're more perceptive than most," she said, a hint of surprise in her voice. "The forest has a life of its own. It's ancient, filled with spirits that have watched over this land for centuries. But not everyone can feel it." Adisa turned to her, intrigued. "And you? Can you feel it?" Nyasha looked away, her gaze fixed on the water. "I can do more than just feel it. she admitted quietly. "I am connected to it in ways that most would not understand." Adisa's brow furrowed as he tried to comprehend her words. "What do you mean?" Nyasha hesitated, her heart pounding in her chest. She had never shared her secret with anyone in the village. The fear of being rejected, of being hunted as something unnatural, had kept her silent. But there was something about Adisa that made her want to trust him. Perhaps it was the way he looked at her, not with fear or suspicion, but with genuine interest and respect. "I'm not like the others in Kuru," she began, her voice barely above a whisper. "I was born of the forest, a child of both human and spirit. My mother, she was a serpent spirit, a guardian of these woods. My father was a mortal who stumbled upon her and fell in love. I was the result of their union, a bridge between two worlds." Adisa listened intently, his eyes widening as the weight of her words sank in. "A serpent spirit?" he echoed, his voice filled with awe rather than fear. "That explains the rumors, the mystery that surrounds you." Nyasha nodded, her heart heavy with the burden of her confession. "It's why I've kept my distance from the others. I can never be fully one of them, no matter how much I try. There are parts of me that are different, parts that I cannot change." For a long moment they sat in silence, the only sound being the gentle flow of the river. Adisa's mind raced as he processed what Nyasha had told him. He had encountered many strange and wondrous things in his travels, but nothing quite like this. Yet, instead of fear, he felt a deep respect for the woman beside him, a respect for the courage it must have taken to live a life divided between two worlds. "You don't have to hide from me," Adisa said softly, placing a hand on Nyasha's shoulder. "I may not fully understand what you are, but I can see the goodness in you. The kindness you've shown to everyone in the village, that's what matters to me." Nyasha looked at him, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. For the first time in years, she felt a glimmer of hope, a hope that perhaps she could find a place where she truly belonged. As they continued to talk, the bond between them grew stronger. Adisa shared stories of his travels, of the distant lands he had seen and the people he had met. Nyasha, in turn, spoke of the forest, of the spirits that dwelled within it, and of the life she had known before coming to Kuru. By the time the first light of dawn began to peek through the trees, they both knew that something profound had begun between them, something that would forever change the course of their lives. But the forest, ever watchful, knew the dangers that lay ahead. For not all spirits were kind, and not all secrets could remain hidden forever. As the first rays of dawn filtered through the trees, Nyasha and Adisa parted ways, each lost in their own thoughts. Adisa returned to his lodgings in the village, his mind buzzing with the revelations of the night before. Meanwhile, Nyasha made her way back to her small home at the edge of Kuru, where the village met the forest. Though she tried to go about her day as usual, her mind kept drifting back to the conversation by the river, to the sense of connection she had felt with Adisa. But as the day wore on, unease began to settle over Nyasha. She had shared her deepest secret with someone she barely knew, a man whose intentions were still unclear. Though Adisa had shown her kindness and understanding, she couldn't shake the feeling that she had exposed herself to danger. The forest spirits had always warned her to keep her true nature hidden, and now, for the first time, she had gone against their advice. That evening, as the village prepared for the night, Nyasha felt a sudden pull toward the forest. It was a familiar sensation, one she had felt many times before, a summons from the spirits that had watched over her since she was a child. Knowing she had no choice but to answer the call, Nyasha slipped away from the village and disappeared into the dense woods. The forest was alive with the sounds of nocturnal creatures as Nyasha made her way through the trees. She moved with a grace that came from years of living in harmony with the land, her feet barely making a sound on the forest floor. As she ventured deeper into the woods, the air grew cooler and the light of the moon filtered through the thick canopy, casting eerie shadows all around her. Eventually, she reached a small clearing where the trees formed a natural circle, their branches intertwined above like a protective canopy. In the center of the clearing stood a tall, ancient tree, its bark twisted and gnarled with age. This was the heart of the forest, a place where the veil between the mortal world and the spirit realm was thin. It was here that the oracle, the ancient spirit that had guided her family for generations, resided. Nyasha approached the tree and knelt before it, bowing her head in respect. "I have come as you summoned, great oracle," she said softly, her voice trembling slightly. "What is it you wish to tell me?" For a moment, there was silence, broken only by the rustling of leaves in the breeze. Then, a low, resonant voice echoed through the clearing, filling the air with a sense of power and wisdom that made Nyasha's heart race. "Nyasha, child of the forest, you have strayed from the path we have set for you," the oracle intoned. "You have revealed your true nature to a mortal, a man whose heart is not yet fully known to us." Nyasha looked up at the tree, her eyes wide with fear. "I meant no harm, great oracle," she pleaded. "He showed me kindness, and I believed I could trust him." "Kindness alone is not enough," the oracle replied, its voice stern but not unkind. "The mortal world is fraught with danger, and not all who seem friendly can be trusted. You have placed yourself in a position of vulnerability, and the consequences may be grave." Nyasha's heart sank as she realized the gravity of her actions. She had always known the risks of revealing her secret, but in her desire for connection, she had ignored the warnings she had been given all her life. "What must I do?" she asked, her voice trembling. "You must be cautious, Nyasha," the oracle warned. "Do not place your trust in this mortal too quickly. Watch him, learn his true intentions, and be wary of those who may seek to use your secret against you. The balance between the mortal world and the spirit realm is delicate, and any disruption could have far-reaching consequences." Nyasha nodded, understanding the weight of the oracle's words. "I will be careful," she promised. "I will protect the secret of my heritage, no matter the cost." The oracle seemed to consider her words for a moment before speaking again. "There is one more thing, child of the forest," it said. "A storm is coming, one that will test your strength and resolve. You must be prepared, for when the time comes, you will need all the power of your lineage to survive." Nyasha felt a chill run down her spine as the oracle's words sank in. A storm was coming, something that would challenge everything she had ever known. But what it was, or when it would strike, she could not say. "Thank you, great oracle," she said finally, bowing her head once more. "I will heed your warning and prepare for what is to come." With that, the oracle fell silent, and the clearing was once again filled with the sounds of the forest. Nyasha rose to her feet, her mind heavy with the knowledge she had been given. As she made her way back to the village, she knew that her life was about to change in ways she could never have imagined. As Nyasha returned to the village, the weight of the oracle's warning pressed heavily on her heart. She had always known that her life would not be easy, that her dual nature would bring challenges that most could never understand. But now, with the oracle's words echoing in her mind, she felt a new sense of urgency. The storm that was coming, whatever form it might take, would test her in ways she had never been tested before. The village of Kuru was quiet as she approached, the sounds of the night punctuated by the distant calls of owls and the soft rustling of the wind through the trees. Most of the villagers had retired to their homes, the day's work done, and the streets were empty save for the occasional flicker of candlelight through a window. Nyasha moved silently through the shadows, her thoughts consumed by the oracle's prophecy. As she neared her small home at the edge of the village, Nyasha felt a strange sense of unease. It was as if the very air around her had thickened, charged with an energy that made her skin prickle. She paused, glancing around, her senses heightened. But the night remained still and nothing seemed out of place. Shaking off the feeling, Nyasha continued on her way, determined to put the day's events behind her. But as she reached her door, a figure stepped out of the shadows, blocking her path. Startled, Nyasha took a step back, her heart racing. "Who's there?" she demanded, her voice firm despite the fear that gripped her. The figure moved into the light, revealing the familiar face of Madhu, one of the village elders. His expression was grave, his eyes narrowed as he studied her. "Nyasha," he said, his voice low and serious, "we need to talk." Nyasha's heart skipped a beat. Madhu was one of the most respected men in the village, known for his wisdom and fairness. But there was something in his eyes tonight that made her uneasy, a glint of suspicion that she had never seen before. "What is it, Elder Madhu?" she asked, trying to keep her voice calm. Madhu hesitated for a moment before speaking. "There have been rumors," he said slowly, his gaze never leaving her face. "Whispers among the villagers. They say you've been seen consorting with spirits in the forest, that you possess powers not of this world." Nyasha's breath caught in her throat. She had always been careful to keep her true nature hidden, but it seemed that her secret was not as safe as she had hoped. "Those are just rumors," she replied, forcing herself to meet his gaze. "You know how people talk, especially when they don't understand something." Madhu's expression softened slightly, but the concern in his eyes remained. "Perhaps," he said, "but you must be careful, Nyasha. The people of Kuru are simple folk. They fear what they do not understand, and fear can quickly turn to anger." Nyasha nodded, understanding the warning in his words. "I will be careful," she promised. "I don't want to cause any trouble." Madhu studied her for a moment longer before sighing. "I know you mean well," he said quietly. "You've always been a kind and gentle soul. But there are those who would see you as a threat, especially if they believe the rumors. I've seen it before in other villages, innocent people driven out, or worse, because of fear and superstition." Nyasha felt a chill run down her spine. She had heard stories of such things, of people being accused of witchcraft or sorcery and being punished for crimes they had not committed. The thought of that happening to her filled her with dread. "I'll keep my distance," she said finally. "I'll make sure no one has any reason to fear me." Madhu nodded, satisfied with her response. "That would be wise," he said. "But remember, Nyasha, you don't have to face this alone. If you ever need help, you can come to me. I will do what I can to protect you." Nyasha felt a surge of gratitude toward the elder. Despite his concerns, he was still willing to stand by her, to offer her protection in a time of need. "Thank you, Elder Madhu," she said softly. "I appreciate your kindness." Madhu gave her a small smile before stepping back into the shadows. "Take care, Nyasha," he said as he turned to leave, "and may the spirits watch over you." As Nyasha watched him disappear into the night, she couldn't shake the feeling that the storm the oracle had warned her about was closer than she had thought. The shadows were closing in, and the safety she had found in Kuru was beginning to unravel. With a heavy heart, she entered her home, bolting the door behind her. The night was silent, but the unease lingered, a constant reminder that her secret was no longer as safe as it once had been.